Father abandons his family. When he tries to return, he discovers a truth that leaves him speechless and full of regret. Arlo Jensen stepped into the familiar streets of Maplewood, the scent of autumn leaves swirling around him. The vibrant colors of red, orange, and gold reminded him of family gatherings filled with warmth and laughter. As he walked, memories flooded his mind. Children playing in the yard, the sound of Lila's laughter, and the smell of her homemade pies. But today, the streets felt different. The charm of Maplewood was overshadowed by a heavy silence that hung in the air. He imagined a heartfelt reunion with Lila and their children, Ava and Finn. In his mind, they would rush to him, joy lighting up their faces. "Dad, you're back!" they would shout, throwing their arms around him. But as he approached his old home, his heart sank. The familiar house stood still, a for sale sign planted firmly in the front yard. The paint peeled like memories fading away, and the flowers he once tended were now overgrown with weeds. A deep sense of loss washed over him. "Why did I leave?" he whispered to himself, his voice barely breaking the stillness. The emptiness of the house symbolized the life he had abandoned. It screamed of the family he lost, the love that had slipped through his fingers like sand. Guilt tightened around his chest, squeezing him with every thought of the years spent apart. Could he really seek forgiveness after all this time? Did he still deserve a place in their lives? As Arlo stood there, he recalled the last time he had walked through that door. Lila's eyes had held a mix of hope and despair, and he had turned away, unable to face the truth of his choices. He shook his head, trying to clear the fog of regret. "You can't change the past," he murmured, but the words felt hollow. He turned away from the house, searching for something familiar, something that might ease the ache in his heart. Maplewood had changed, but so had he. The streets held echoes of his childhood, each corner a reminder of happier times. Yet, as he walked, he felt like a ghost haunting his own memories. "Arlo?" a voice called out, breaking through his thoughts. He turned to see Mrs. Thompson, an elderly neighbor, standing on her porch. Her eyes widened in surprise. "Is that really you?" "Yeah, it's me," he replied, forcing a smile. "I'm back in town." Mrs. Thompson stepped down, her cane tapping against the pavement. "It's been years. We all wondered what happened to you. Lila and the kids are doing well, you know." A pang of curiosity mixed with dread shot through him. "They are?" he asked, unable to hide his surprise. "How are they?" "Oh, Lila's been amazing," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice filled with admiration. "She's strong, raising those kids all on her own. You should see how they've grown. Ava is in middle school now, and Finn, well, he's a little troublemaker, but a good boy." Arlo listened intently, his heart swelling with both pride and regret. "I wish I could have been there for them," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. Mrs. Thompson placed a comforting hand on his arm. "It's never too late, Arlo. If you want to reach out, I'm sure Lila would understand. She's always had a big heart." He nodded, but doubt clouded his mind. Could he really disrupt the life she had built? What if she had moved on? The thought gnawed at him, tugging at the edges of his conscience. As he continued down the street, Arlo found himself grappling with a heavy moral dilemma. Should he contact Lila and risk everything, or should he let her be, allowing her to live the life he had walked away from? The love and laughter once filling their home echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of what could have been. What would he choose? Would he find the courage to face the truth? Or would he remain a shadow in the life of the family he had lost? The questions lingered as he walked through the streets of Maplewood, each step pulling him deeper into the past he so desperately wanted to reconcile. Arlo Jensen walked slowly down the familiar streets of Maplewood, feeling the crisp autumn air wrap around him. Each step brought back memories of laughter and warmth. But now, the streets felt empty and cold. He decided it was time to seek out old neighbors. Maybe they could help him understand what had happened to Lila and their children, Ava and Finn. As he approached the first house, he saw Mrs. Thompson, an elderly neighbor who used to bake cookies for the kids. She looked up and smiled, her eyes bright with recognition. "Arlo, it's been so long. How are you?" "I'm okay, Mrs. Thompson," he replied, forcing a smile. "I've just come back to town and wanted to catch up with everyone." "Oh dear, I'm glad to see you," she said, her tone shifting to something more serious. "Lila has been doing well. She's quite the strong woman, you know." Arlo felt a knot tighten in his chest. "Strong? In what way?" Mrs. Thompson sighed and leaned in closer, as if to share a secret. "After you left, she joined a support program for single mothers. She's been thriving, raising Ava and Finn with such grace. You should be proud of her." "Proud?" Arlo echoed, feeling a mix of admiration and regret. "I don't know if I can feel proud. I left her." Mrs. Thompson placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You made a mistake, Arlo, but Lila has turned her life around. She's happy now, and that's what matters." After saying goodbye to Mrs. Thompson, Arlo walked away, his mind racing. Lila was thriving, yet he felt a deep sorrow for the time he had lost. He wanted to reach out, to talk to her, but fear gripped him. What if she didn't want to see him? What if he disrupted the new life she had built? He remembered their home, once filled with laughter and joy. Now, it felt like a distant memory. Arlo stopped at a small park where he and Lila used to take the kids. The swings swayed gently in the wind, and the laughter of children echoed in the air, a stark reminder of what he was missing. "Why did I leave?" he whispered to himself, clenching his fists in frustration. "I should have been there for them." Later that day, he met with another neighbor, Tom, who had been a close friend. They sat on a bench, sharing stories. Tom looked at Arlo with concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost. What's going on?" "I just found out how well Lila is doing," Arlo replied. "She's raising the kids alone, and I feel like I missed so much." Tom nodded. "You did miss a lot, but you can't change the past. You need to think about what you want now. Are you going to reach out to her?" Arlo sighed heavily. "I want to, but I'm scared. What if she's moved on? What if she hates me? Or maybe she's waiting for you to come back," Tom suggested gently. "Sometimes it takes courage to face the truth." Arlo stared into the distance, contemplating Tom's words. The weight of his choices pressed down on him. He wanted to reconnect, but he also wanted to respect the life Lila had built without him. As he walked home that evening, the sky turned shades of orange and pink. The beauty of the sunset filled him with a sense of longing and hope. He thought about Lila and how much she had accomplished. His heart ached with the memories of their love and the laughter they had shared. Standing outside his old home, Arlo finally made a decision. He would not rush into contacting Lila. Instead, he would take time to understand his own feelings and respect the life she had created. Perhaps, in time, there would be a way to bridge the gap between them. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the echoes of their shared past. Arlo knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for healing, even if it meant taking one step at a time. Arlo Jensen stood outside Lila's new home, the warm glow of light spilling from the window like a welcoming beacon. Memories of happier times flooded his mind, where laughter echoed through the halls and love filled every corner. But that was a different time, a time long lost to the shadows of regret. His heart raced as he hesitated, fear and hope battling within him. He took a deep breath, the crisp autumn air filling his lungs, and stepped closer to the door. He raised his hand, trembling slightly, and knocked softly. The sound felt loud in the quiet night, like a drum echoing in the stillness. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing Lila. The sight of her sent a rush of emotions coursing through him. She looked different, stronger, perhaps, but still so familiar. Her eyes widened in surprise, and for a brief moment, they simply stared at each other, wrapped in a heavy silence that spoke volumes. "Arlo?" Lila finally whispered, her voice a mix of shock and uncertainty. "Hi, Lila," he managed to reply, his voice barely above a whisper. The unspoken words hung between them, thick with emotion and years of distance. "What are you doing here?" she asked, stepping back slightly, a hint of caution in her gaze. He swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. I wanted to see you. I didn't know if I should, but I needed to know how you are." Lila crossed her arms, as if to shield herself from the memories they both shared. "I'm fine. I've been fine." The tension in her voice was palpable, and Arlo felt a pang of guilt wash over him. "I've heard you are doing well," he said, searching her face for any sign of warmth. "The neighbors tell me you're amazing with the kids." A flicker of pride crossed Lila's features, but it quickly faded. "I've had to be. I had no choice, Arlo. You left us." "I know," he replied, his heart aching at her words. "I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Didn't mean to?" she interrupted, her voice rising slightly. "You didn't think at all. You just walked away and left us to figure it out." Arlo's chest tightened at the truth in her words. He had come to seek forgiveness, yet here he was, facing the consequences of his past decisions. "I regret it every day, Lila. I've thought about you and the kids constantly. I wanted to reach out, but I didn't know if it was right." Lila's expression softened for just a moment, but the hurt was still there, lurking beneath the surface. "You think it's easy? Moving on? Building a life without you? I did it, but it wasn't simple." Arlo took a step forward, trying to bridge the distance between them. "I see that now. I admire your strength. You've done so much for Ava and Finn, and I—" "Don't," Lila cut him off again, raising her hand. "Don't admire me. I did what I had to do. I didn't have a choice." Silence fell between them once more, and Arlo could feel the weight of their shared history pressing down on him. He wanted to reach out, to touch her hand, to show her that he still cared. But he knew that the past could not be erased with a simple gesture. "I just want you to know," he said softly, "that I'm here now. I want to help, if you'll let me." Lila shook her head, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Help? You think you can just step back into our lives after all this time and help? It doesn't work that way, Arlo." "I know," he replied, feeling defeated. "I just thought, maybe we could talk. Maybe we could find a way to move forward." Lila looked away, her gaze drifting to the ground. "It's not that simple. I've built a life for myself, and it's taken a long time to get here." "I see that," Arlo said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I really do. I'm proud of you, Lila. But I also want to be a part of it, if you'll allow me." Lila took a deep breath, her expression hardening again. "You need to understand, Arlo. I've moved on. I'm not sure I can let you back in." Arlo felt a sharp pang in his chest, but he nodded. "I understand. I just hope you know that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." As the silence stretched between them once more, Arlo realized that while he was searching for forgiveness, Lila had already forged her own path to healing. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Their journey was far from over. As Arlo and Lila stood in the dim light of her living room, the air felt heavy with unspoken words. Lila, looking more confident yet weary, finally broke the silence. "I never thought you would come back," she said, her voice steady but soft. Arlo shifted nervously, his heart pounding. "I didn't know if I should. I've missed so much," he admitted, his eyes searching hers for understanding. Lila took a deep breath, her gaze drifting to the framed pictures on the wall, showcasing moments of joy that had unfolded in his absence. "It hasn't been easy, Arlo. I had to learn how to be strong for Ava and Finn," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "They needed me, and I needed to find myself again." Arlo felt a pang of regret. He had left when they needed him the most. "I can see that. You've done well," he said, trying to mask the guilt creeping into his heart. I'm proud of you." She turned to him, her expression a mix of pride and pain. "It was hard. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I had made the right choices, but I had to keep going. For them. For me," Lila confessed, her voice gaining strength. Arlo nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have helped," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Lila smiled sadly. "You can't change the past, Arlo, and neither can I. But we are here now, and we have to face it together." The walls between them felt thinner as they began to share their stories. Arlo talked about his struggles, the loneliness that had followed him since he left. "I thought I could find myself out there, but all I found was emptiness," he admitted, looking down at the floor. Lila listened intently, her heart aching for the man she once loved. "I understand, but you also need to understand what I have built here. This is my life now," she said gently. "Ava and Finn have adjusted, and I want to protect that." Arlo's heart sank as he realized the truth in her words. "I don't want to disrupt your life, Lila. I don't know how to fit in anymore," he confessed, feeling lost. Lila stepped closer, her eyes searching his. "You have to decide. Do you want to be part of our lives again? Or will you respect what we've created?" He felt the weight of her question settle heavily on his shoulders. The thought of jumping back into their lives was both thrilling and terrifying. "I want to be there for you and the kids. I really do," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But I don't want to hurt you again." "Then maybe you need to take a step back," Lila suggested softly. "It might be better for everyone. We have our routines, our little family. You stepping in might confuse them." Arlo swallowed hard, the reality of her words hitting him like a wave. "Is that what you want?" he asked, his voice trembling. "To keep me at a distance?" Lila shook her head. "It's not about what I want. It's about what's best for Ava and Finn. They need stability, and I need to know that you respect our new life." A silence fell between them, filled with the weight of their shared history. Arlo felt torn, wanting to reach out to the family he had left behind, but also understanding the necessity of Lila's words. "I see what you mean," he finally said, his voice a whisper of acceptance. "I'll do what's best for them." Lila smiled, a mixture of relief and sadness in her eyes. "Thank you for understanding. It means more than you know." As they stood together, a fragile bridge began to form between them, a bridge built on honesty and the acceptance of their past. Though the future remained uncertain, both Arlo and Lila knew that they had taken the first step towards healing. Arlo stood a few blocks away from Lila's house, his heart heavy with mixed emotions. He had made the decision to respect her independence, yet the urge to be close was strong. He often watched as she navigated her new life, the laughter of Ava and Finn drifting through the open windows, filling the air with warmth. He felt proud of Lila, but a sharp pang of sorrow hit him every time he remembered what he had lost. One sunny afternoon, he found himself sitting on a park bench, a good spot to see the small house where Lila now lived. He watched as Ava and Finn played in the yard, their giggles ringing out like music. Lila joined them, her face lighting up with joy as she chased them around. "Come on, you two, try to catch me," she called, her laughter blending with theirs. Arlo smiled softly, feeling a bittersweet joy. He wanted to be part of that laughter, to hold his children in his arms again. But he also knew that Lila had built a life without him, a life that was strong and vibrant. He whispered to himself, "She's doing so well." Days turned into weeks, and Arlo continued to keep his distance. He learned more about Lila's routine by observing her from afar. He saw her take Ava and Finn to the library every Saturday, where they would choose books and share stories. He remembered how much they loved reading together as a family. One evening, as the sun began to set, he watched Lila sit on the porch with a cup of tea, the golden light casting a warm glow around her. He thought about how she had transformed into a woman who could stand tall on her own. "She doesn't need me," he sighed, feeling both a sense of relief and loss. As time went by, Arlo began to think about his own journey. He had always been focused on what he had lost, but perhaps it was time to focus on what he could gain. He started exploring the community, trying to find ways to engage and connect, even if it meant doing so quietly. One Saturday, he volunteered at a local food bank. As he sorted through cans and boxes, he met others who shared their stories. He listened as they spoke of their struggles and triumphs. It felt good to be part of something bigger than himself. "Helping others makes you realize how much you have," a kind woman said to him, her hands busy packing bags. "It's a way to heal." Arlo nodded, her words resonating deeply within him. He thought about Lila and how she had healed. Maybe he could find a path to healing as well, without stepping into her life uninvited. That evening, he returned to his spot in the park, feeling lighter. He watched Lila and the kids through the trees, and for the first time, he did not feel the urge to intervene. Instead, he allowed himself to feel the love he had for them, a love that did not require presence. "Maybe this is how I can support them," he whispered to himself, by being a silent cheerleader. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Arlo felt a moment of clarity wash over him. He realized that love could take many forms. Sometimes, it meant letting go, even when it hurt. He took a deep breath, letting the cool evening air fill his lungs. "I can be proud of them from here," he said softly. "I can find my way too." With that thought, he stood up from the bench and walked away, feeling the weight of his past slowly lift. Arlo understood that healing was not just about being present. It was about respecting the choices made and finding a way to grow, even in silence. He glanced back at Lila's home one last time, a hopeful smile on his face. "You are doing amazing, Lila," he murmured, his heart swelling with pride. And with that, he took his first steps toward a new beginning, carrying the echoes of love and the promise of redemption in his heart. As the days turned into weeks, Arlo Jensen found a strange sense of comfort in his decision to step back from Lila and their children. The echo of silence that filled his life was not just an absence, it was a space for growth and reflection. He began to understand that sometimes letting go was the most loving thing he could do. One crisp afternoon, Arlo stood by the window of his small apartment, watching the leaves dance in the wind. The sun cast a golden light on the trees, and he felt a warmth that reminded him of the love he once had. "Maybe this is how it's meant to be," he whispered to himself. The thought brought him peace, even as he missed Lila and the kids. Determined to find purpose, Arlo decided to volunteer at the local community center. On his first day, he walked through the doors with a mix of excitement and nerves. The center was buzzing with activity, children laughing, and adults chatting. He approached a woman behind the desk, her name tag reading, Maggie. "Hi, I'm Arlo. I'd like to volunteer," he said, trying to sound confident. Maggie looked up, her smile warm and inviting. "That's great to hear. We always need more hands around here. What are you interested in doing?" "I'm not sure yet. I just want to help," he replied, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Why don't you start with the after-school program? The kids would love some extra attention," Maggie suggested, her eyes twinkling with encouragement. Arlo nodded, feeling a spark of excitement. As he joined the group of children, he felt a rush of joy. They were full of energy, their laughter infectious. He helped them with their homework, shared stories, and even played games. With each passing day, he felt more at home in this new role. One afternoon, as he was packing up after a session, a little girl named Mia approached him. "Mr. Arlo, you're really nice. Can you come back tomorrow?" Arlo smiled, his heart swelling. "Of course, Mia. I'll be here. You can count on that." As the weeks rolled on, Arlo found himself becoming a fixture at the center. He forged connections with the children and their families, feeling a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. Each smile and thank you from the kids filled the void left by his absence from Lila's life. One evening, he sat on a park bench, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. The beauty of the moment took his breath away, and he thought about Lila and the children. He hoped they were well, thriving in their new life. Just then, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an old neighbor, Sarah. "Hey Arlo, just wanted to let you know Lila and the kids are doing great. Ava has started soccer, and Finn is learning to ride a bike. They are happy." Arlo read the message and felt a mix of joy and sadness. He was glad to hear they were doing well, but it also reminded him of the life he had missed. He replied to Sarah, "Thanks for the update. I'm really glad to hear that." That night, Arlo lay in bed, the echoes of his past swirling in his mind. He thought about Lila's strength and how she had built a new life for herself and the kids. "I hope you're proud of yourself, Lila," he murmured into the stillness of his room. In the months that followed, Arlo continued to volunteer, pouring his heart into helping others. The community center became a second home, and the children became a source of light in his life. He learned that love could take many forms, even from a distance. One sunny afternoon, as he watched the children play outside, Arlo felt a sense of hope washing over him. He realized that while he might never fully return to the life he once had, he could still make a difference. He could be a positive force in the world around him. As he watched the sunset again, a smile crept across his face. "This is just the beginning," he thought, embracing the echoes of hope that filled his heart. He knew that healing was a journey, and he was ready to walk that path, step by step, with love guiding his way. Share this story if you believe that sometimes letting go can lead to unexpected growth and healing. Leave a comment about a moment of kindness that changed your perspective on life, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one.